talking, transition, and hello. How are you doing, Mama?
Hello. I'm doing all right. Left work early today, so
Hmm.
that was nice. And then I lost track of time until you said, "Hey, Sudoku." It's like, oh, oops.
Hello, Telrac. I'm glad to see the chat's actually working on the stream today. It's not always consistently working, and I don't know if there's anything that I'm doing to get it to show up or not show up. But I don't know. But yeah. All right. I don't have anything to talk about before we get started. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we get started, Mama?
Nope. I'm all good.
I guess I should really start doing the stream announcements before we get started, because if anyone comes and watches these later, then they get the announcements early, and then they can skip past them if they want. But yeah. Project Zomboid should be on Thursday at around 12:30 a.m., which is actually Friday morning. So Thursday night after midnight. And then hopefully I'll play Horizon Zero Dawn at some point. I'm less busy this week, so those I don't schedule, just show up when I feel like it. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and share the video with people. So with that out of the way, let's hop over to some Sudoku. I make sure I grab the actual browser source there, and we can get started on this one. So this is our third attempt at this one.
Nothing
This
like starting
is
with a puzzle to make us feel stupid.
well, hopefully, I mean, I did actually ask for hints from Electron, and they were gracious enough to provide some. I haven't read all of the hints yet. Hopefully, we don't need all of them. But anyway, so this is Devious Ability by Free by Electron. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits on a purple Renban line must be a set of consecutive, non-repeating digits in any order. Digits along an arrow sum to the 2-digit number in the attached circle. Digits separated by a V or X sum to their Roman numeral values. So a V is 5 and an X is 10. And not necessarily all X or V hints are necessarily given. So last time we did quite a bit of mathematics to see that we've got this pair of V's here, which gives us some small digits. We calculated what these arrows could look like. I've got more detailed notes up here to show like what our mins and maxes and all that is. And I did a little bit on my own because, I mean, we've spent, I guess the timer's not showing on the actual stream, but we've spent over 270 minutes staring at this puzzle, half of which was me on my own, and I didn't make any progress on it, other than sort of highlighting these 4 regions, but I'm not even sure if that's necessarily productive. But anyway, knowing that the minimums for these are in the 30 range and the maximums in the 50 range, that gives us 3, 4, and 5 as our tens digits. And the 3 and the 4 combine with the 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 5 to eliminate 3 and 4 from the rest of the line. And a 5 is required, because if they were both 3 and 4, you couldn't make this 5 work. And then that leaves 6, 7, 8, and 9 on this Renban, and the other 1 and 2 from the 5 up here, and then the 6 or the 9 being the other digit. This sees all of those. And since this digit is that digit, and we know that 3 and 4 must be used up by both this 5 and down here, that removes both 3 and 4 from the 10. And then 1 and 2 are both used up from the 10 and the 5, removing it from the rest of the row. And because you have to use either 8 or 9, or excuse me, you have to use 8 or 9 on the 10. You can't put a 9 on the Renban because it would have to combine with an 8, and that would break the 10 over here. And you can't put a 3 as the smallest digit on here because that would combine with 4 and break our 5. So that is 4 through 8, which requires a 6 to work. I guess the only other thing that I haven't explained is this 10 up here can't be 3 and 7, because if it was, that would require that the Renban here would be 4, 5, and 6, because it would have to be between the 3 and the 7, which is only the digits 4, 5, and 6. And the 10 on the end here would mean that this would have to be 4 or 6, but its partner would be on the Renban line, and so that would just break it. But all of the other possibilities work. I did a bunch of heavy mathematics to get rid of the digit 8 on here, but I don't know if it's necessarily worth explaining. So from here, the thing that I was told to look at was the title of the puzzle. Specifically, well, I don't know if it's necessarily specifically the end part by free, but you can think of that as being a mispronunciation of by 3. And if you think about dividing things by 3, a 10 and a 5 is 15, so that's divisible by 3. If you think about how Renbans work, if I've got 3 digits on there, then you can think of it being as the smallest digit. Oh, hey, Electron. By the way, I'm technically awake right now because there has been a leak in our hotel room that has woken me up. Oh, that is very upsetting.
Not good.
Yeah, hopefully that gets taken care of quickly, and you can fall back asleep. So hopefully our voices are as good as Simon's and Mark's for helping you fall asleep. Although I don't necessarily listen to Mark and Simon to fall asleep, but I've heard that they are voices that people would use, and I can imagine that works. Anyway, I'm not sure how complimentary it is to say that somebody's voice is like, I listen to your YouTube videos to help me fall asleep. I'm not sure whether or not that's complimentary. I don't know. I guess it depends. Like, if I was making like sleep content, sure, but if I was making like other types of content, like maybe their content, I'm not sure that that's complimentary. Anyway, so I apologize in advance because I'm not sure that's complimentary. Back to the puzzle. If we look at a 3-cell Renban, you can think of that as being the smallest digit, the next smallest digit, and the largest digit. And since there's 3 of them, and they have to be a consecutive set, the smallest digit, then the middle digit is the smallest digit plus 1, and the largest digit is the smallest digit plus 2. Because they're consecutive, you just add 1 each time. And then if you combine all of that, their sum is 3x plus 3. So the sum of what is on the Renban is a multiple of 3, because both 3 times something is by definition a multiple of 3, and 3 is, of course, a multiple of 3. And when you add 2 numbers that are a multiple of 3, they stay a multiple of 3. And so the 15 and this Renban combined are all a multiple of 3, and so the leftover on the end must be a multiple of 3. I guess thinking of what the renban could be, you could have, so we know this is 15, and this would be 30. If you've got 4 as your smallest digit, that would be 15 as the sum across. So those would be 15. So that would have to be done with 7 and 8. You couldn't use 6 and 9 because 4, 5, and 6 would remove that. If you bump the smallest digit up to 5, that is 18. So the remainder would be 12. And so you can do 4, 8, and 3, 9. Although 3, 9, 3 would require this be 1, 4, and the 9 would be 2, 8. Okay, that's fine. So I didn't mess that up. 4, 8 would be 2, 3, and 1, 9. So that doesn't mess anything up. The only other possibility for 12 in 2 digits is 5 and 7. But we said 5 was our smallest digit on the renban, and as well as 5, 6, and then 7. So both are used on the renban, so that you can't use 5, 7 there. And then if 6 is our smallest digit, and we go 6, 7, 8, that is 21. And that would leave a remainder of 9. So 4 and 5 works for that, because you'd have 6, 7, 8 on the renban, which would be a 1, 9, and a 2, 3, so the only 2 digits left over are 4 and 5. And then you couldn't do 3, 6, because we used a 6 there. And then you can't use 1 and 2, because that was something we've already discussed previously. So those are our options for these two on the far side. And then I looked at that on this column here, and I couldn't think of a way that that made sense, or maybe led to any conclusions, I guess. Yeah, because they're looking at these options, there weren't that many. I don't think there's anything eliminated, because I've got 3 paired with 9, 4 paired with 5, 7 paired with 8. So I guess now all of the digits are available there on the end. But yeah, anyway, going back to column 3. The renban's obviously a multiple of 3. The 5 is a multiple of 3 plus 2. Then you've got the other 5 in here that is actually a 5. And so that combines to make 10, which is one more than a multiple of 3. But then you've got the 3, 4 with the 1, 2 that sums to 5, which brings you to 15. And then it's either a 6 or a 9, both of which are multiples of 3 already. So that ends up working just fine, and I couldn't think of a way that that led to anything. So that is where I stopped, because I needed to take a nap. But yeah, so I was wondering, because we know that if we look at these 4 digits, that because of the their L shape, this ends up being reflected up across. And so this whole group is divisible by 3. But I was trying to think if that meant anything for these two in particular. Because if I learn the identity of one of them, I learn the identity of the other. So if this was 2 and 8, then this would have to be 1 and 4. So I guess let's just 2, 8, 1, and 4. Now it wouldn't have to be in that particular order, but I guess I want to consider like the two options. So 1 and 4 are both 3 are both 1 mod 3. But that changes if you use the 2 and the 3, because the 2 and the 3, the 2 is 2 mod 3 and the 3 is 0 mod 3. And then with 2, 8, 2 is 2 mod 3, and 8 is 2 mod 3. So that's fine. So these end up being, regardless of which way they're placed, whether it's the 2 on top or the 8 on top and the 1 on top of the 4 on top, they're going to have this be 0 mod 3. But if I flip that around and I do a 9, a 2, a 3, and a 1, we don't have that same thing. Because there's nothing about how the 1 and the 9 are oriented that forces the 2 and the 3 to be oriented in a particular direction. And so 9 is 0 and 2 is 2, but I could flip the 2 and the 3 around, and then suddenly this is 0 instead of 2 mod 2 mod 3. So that doesn't feel useful. So then I guess the thing that I want to think about is this arrow on the right, maybe? Okay, so here, I'm going to get rid of the colors, because I haven't really explained them. So if I think about this entire group, then it is 3 sets of 45. So the entire thing's divisible by 3. We've talked about how a Renban line is divisible by 3, as long as it's 3 cells long. So that is all divisible by 3. If I subtract these two from the group, I get just the 10s. Although I don't know if that's logically sound, so never mind. So right now, I have the sum of all of this is still divisible by 3. And I know that this group is divisible by 3 because the it's part of a section that is 45, and I removed a 3-cell Renban, which is divisible by 3, so that's divisible by 3. So then, looking at what is over here, if I just care about the sums, then I can take this 10 and remove it and place it here. Because the sum of that and the sum of that, seeing as there's an x there, what if I also add the left side of the arrows? I guess I was starting with 3 boxes, but if I just look at the arrows, oops, colors removed. If I just look at the arrows, I guess I wanted one side to be blue. Since that side started red, I'll make the side blue. So if I add both sides, I know that both sides are equal. So that is 2x. And if I add... Well, I can't add these directly to them. Because these are because the bulbs represent the value of the sum entirely. So if I wanted to add this, I mean, I guess I could just make it green, and I say that this plus this, and that would be 2 times the sum of the value that's represented in green, where this is 10 times and this is only 1 times. And when you multiply if I multiply 10 times 5, 10 is 1 mod 3. And 5 is 2 mod 3. 5 times 10 is 50. And 50 is still 2 more than a multiple of 3. So with modulus division, if I remember correctly, that applies in a more generic sense. And I guess if I wanted to talk about that in a bit more specifically, if I have some value, let's say it's 10 and I multiply that times 5, and then I know that those are equal to 9 plus 1 times 3 plus 2. And 3 and 9 are both multiples of 3, so their modulus is 0. And FOIL this 3 times 9 plus 9 times 2 plus 1 times 3 plus 1 times 2. And obviously anything that has the stuff that was a multiple of 3 is still a multiple of 3, so that all drops, and I get 1 times 2, which was the remainder division there. So you can think of that as being like all of the other stuff. So what do you know about the sum of the bulbs mod 3? We know that it is going to, well, I guess we know that the sum of the bulbs mod 3 is still going to be the same as I guess I was on a tangent and I lost both thoughts at the same time. But I guess independently, the sum of the bulbs mod 3 would just simply be oh, I guess that was the point of that I was trying to make here, which was but I was and so if this is all mod 3, then that ends up being still 2. Which is just simply the multiplication of that. And so multiplying by 10, which is a 1, ends up being unchanging the mod of the tens digit. And then if you add something on top of that, then the whole thing, the value that's represented by the bulb has the same modulus as the sum of the digits. So your thought was correct. The sum of the digits of the bulb is equal to the arrow mod 3. Yeah. So so like if the number was 52, then because 5 is 2 mod 3, multiplying it times 10, which is 1 mod 3, doesn't change it. And adding something that was 2 mod 3 on top of that would end up being 1 mod 3, because 2 plus 2 is 4, and then mod 3 makes that go back to 1. And so if it was 52, that's a 1 more than 51, which is a multiple of 3, so that should be correct. So the sum of the digits mod 3 is the same as the arrows mod 3. So all of these have the exact same mod 3 value. So essentially, if we just consider the red group and the blue group and the green group, if since they all have the same modulus remainder, you can add them up together, and you're going to end up with a multiple of 3, because you're adding 3 of the same thing, which is, by definition, a multiple of 3. So from there, I guess you've got that's a multiple of 3, that's a multiple of 3. That's a multiple of 3. That one's a multiple of 3. That one's a multiple of 3. And I guess since everything's a multiple of 3, I guess maybe instead I should be starting to subtract things that are multiples of 3. And I can remove that, I can remove all of that, and I can remove all of that. But that just leads back to that as being a multiple of 3, which I already knew. So maybe I'm going in the wrong direction. This is all a multiple of 3. Or, more accurately, this plus that is a multiple of 3. I know this is a multiple of 3 because of the math across this line. So then this ends up being a multiple of 3. This is 10, which is not a multiple of 3. And I can't know for certain, because if this was a 9 and these were a pair of 1s, then that would not be a multiple of 3. But if they were all 2, 8, it would be. I guess instead of thinking about it, or I guess Elytron said maybe go back to having everything colored and then add row 1 to it. Then, instead of it just being this Renban line, well, we know the whole top row is a multiple of 3, because it's 45. We also know that the remainder of box 1, or excuse me, box 3, is a multiple of 3, because the Renban at the top of box 3 makes it a multiple of 3. We know that the center box is a multiple of 3. And since the entire grid's a multiple of 3, then the sum of all of this is a multiple of 3, which if they're all 1, 4, that works completely correctly. Because 1 and 4 are both 1 mod 3, and so if I have 3 of them, that's 3 mod 3. 2 and 3, well, 3 is 0, and 2 is 2 mod 3. So I either have 1 2, which is 2 mod 3, or 2 2s, which is 4 mod 3, which is 1 mod 3, which doesn't work. So, knowing that the sum of the arrow plus a duplicated sum of that arrow plus the values that represent the sum of those arrows, they all have the same remainder division by 3. The Renban lines are all by definition multiples of 3. The remainder in a box is if you subtract out a Renban line, is still divisible by 3. A whole row is divisible by 3, and a whole box is divisible by 3, which leads us to learn that this has to be 1, 4. And this has to be 2 and 8. Alright, I'm going to remove the coloring, if I can ever remember how to get that to work correctly. So then that removes 4s and 8s and 7s and 5s. And then that leads us to 1 and 7, 4 and 6.
No. 3 and 4.
Thank you. 1 is out, but we still don't. We know it's 2 paired with whatever's left over from this Renban line. Then 3 and 4. 3 can go down to 1 and 2. 4 can go up to 5 and 6. Except a 4 would pair with a 6, so you would need a 3. And then, of course, 3 can go up to 5 as well. So we know 3 is on here. So that does lead this to be 3 and 5. Okay. The last hint in my message is for this next step, so if I fall asleep, you can find a hint there. Okay. I definitely appreciate the help. I don't think I would have figured that out on my own. Even with the hint, but of course you did give the hints, so I would have had those to fall back on. But without those, I don't know if I would have figured that out. That was really hard. But I guess like once I knew where to go, or like how to think about it, I don't know. It was just lacking the knowledge there. But okay. Anyway, well, okay. The 2 and the 8 here. If these are both 2s, then that 2 ends up there, which we already knew. If they're both 8s, that 8 ends up here. That doesn't help yet. Right there. Okay. Then all right. I guess in this case, it's definitely a very hard step. It originated from after you two solved my 6x6 Sudoku, where I was intending similar logic, but you more or less went through all possibilities and solved it that way. Yeah. I remember you talking about that, where I decided to set another Sudoku where I actually forced the mod 3 logic. Yeah. And this definitely forced that logic. And I when you gave the hint to do the modulus 3 stuff, I remembered that puzzle a little bit, not all the way, unfortunately, but anyway. So here, okay, I guess in this case, if I mark these in green, then I know that the value of red is 90 plus this section, minus green plus this section. If I remove all of that, it's 90 plus this minus that. And if I look at blue, well, the same is true if I take this 10 and I move it over there, because while these aren't necessarily the same digits, and they probably aren't the same digits, their sum is the same, and so I haven't changed the sum of the blue region at all. And if I subtract out this orange region, then this is all 90. So 90 minus orange plus blue is the same as 90 minus green plus red. And so if we subtract the 90s from both sides, red minus green is equal to blue minus orange. Which, this is probably still on the screen, and it's what this logic is. And if I think about the units digits, that is what this x here is, but we know that that's just the units. So if I just mark this in yellow, the units are equal to the difference plus 10. Unfortunately, as I was doing the working out and got to this stuff, if this had been 4 and 5 instead of 3 and 5, then that would have forced the units to be equal to the difference here. But because of the plus 10, these could be greater than the orange region, which is subtracted, could be greater than the blue region, and then that difference would be negative. And so we get 10 minus, or, well, I mean, it's still 10 plus the difference, but anyway. So 10 plus the difference between blue and orange gives me yellow. And 10 plus the difference between red and green also gives me yellow. And I guess the other thing to think about is that 3 puts 7, 8, and 9 in here. Because if I look at the minimums, the range for the bottom digit is between 37 and 53. Which actually just means this is 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. However, the top goes from 39, so if it's 3, that's 9, to 59, so I have the entire range of values, except this can't be a 5 for the top. Although I already knew that because a 5 has to be one of these two. But I know that one of those has to be a high digit at minimum. One of these has to be a high digit, and one of those has to be a high digit. So that's 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. If these were both high digits, they would be greater than 10. And if these are both low digits, their maximum value is 7. And the minimum here is 3. So the maximum that these could sum to is 14, if I did that math correctly. Because the units is 10 plus blue minus orange. And so if the units is some digit plus another digit, and it can't be 6 and 7 because that would make the top both 5. So 6 and 8 is 14. So min 14, if they're both high digits. If they're both high digits, then blue could be at most 3 and 7. And orange could be minimum 1 and 2. And so the units would be maximum 10 plus the maximum of blue, which is 7, minus the minimum of orange, which is 3, which is 14. Okay. Now, to get that, that was 6, 8. Three, 4, and 1, 2. And you put a 7 and a 3 here, that gives you your 1, 2. But that would be 5 and 6 over here, which would break the 6, 8. So that's not possible then. Because while I could change the 6 out for a 7, that's 15. But that doesn't change the maximum of the units. So I can't have 2 high digits in yellow or as my units. Does that make sense, Mama? Still there, Mama?
Sorry, I accidentally I was coughing earlier and I muted it and I forgot to turn it back on.
No worries. But did that logic seem sound? The proof that these have to be a small digit and a large digit?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Which means that blue is also a small digit and a large digit. So given that, a small digit and a large digit would be 4 and 9 for the maximum. So max 4 plus 9, and min is 1 plus 6. So 7 and 13. And that's going to be the same for blue. And then orange has a max of 4 and 5, which is 9. And a min of 3. And again, U is 10 plus blue minus orange, which is 20. So I guess I should think of the min.
Yeah, because you can't do 20 in 2 digits.
Yeah. And with it being a small digit and a large digit, the max is 13 anyway, 4 and 9. And then, okay, so the minimum would be 10 plus, and I want the minimum for blue, which is 7, minus the most I can put into orange, which is 9, and that would give me a minimum of 8. So 1 and 6 wouldn't be allowed here. From the mathematics. So it goes between 8 and 13. And then I guess we've got this 10 in the middle that we need to consider. That's 1 mod 3. Five is 2 mod 3. So that's going to be divisible by 3. Whatever the 1 and the 4 is, plus the 5. Maybe that's not helpful. 10. I guess I kind of want to just start with this corner here and say if it's a 7, then we end up with a 6 on this side. And the 10 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. And that's going to give us a 3 here. And so I get 1, 2, 2, 4, or 4, 5. All of which is divisible by 3. Right, because the whole thing's divisible by 3, and if this is a 3, then those are going to still be divisible by 3, whatever their sum is. And then, so we know orange is divisible by 3. The 10's digit is 80, which is 2 mod 3. The units plus 2 mod 3 are going to end up being the same as... Okay. So, whatever our value is, it has the same remainder as the value. So these are all congruent. The value and these things. Well, 90 is not going to affect the remainder. So the tens has a remainder of 2. Therefore, the units so our value is equal to 2 plus u mod 3. So those are congruent. And that's also congruent to these. If now we know that the units are made up of 10, which is mod 1, add that to the 2, no, I lost it. Because that would be 1, add that to that, and I mean, we already know that these have the same remainder as that. So the units have a remainder that is 2 less than the total value. Okay, well, if I'm focusing on orange, and if orange has a remainder of 3, then blue has a remainder that is equal to the units plus remainder plus 2. Which I don't know if that means anything. And it's past 9. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and accept that next hint. Alright, looked at that one. We looked at that one. Dun, 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 dun. So that, if you have a pair in row 7, column 3, and row 8, column 3, row 7, column 3, row 8, column 3, What? Then you should... If you have a pair in row 7, column 3, and row 8, column 3, well, I mean, technically those aren't paired, but, I mean, that's a pair and that's a pair. Electron probably fell back asleep. But they said to set this to 3 and see what happens. I know that the top forced a 9 here. Oops. And the bottom ended up being 1, 2, 3. So 1 and 9 comes out, 3 and 7 comes out. Well, knowing that this was 39, as a minimum, that made this 10, I think. Because this whole column is 45. If I subtract a 9 and a 7, that was 16. So that would be 29 as a remainder. And then if I add 10, that makes this a 2 and a 1, 3, 4. These were 7 and 9. Well, here would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That 9 would be removed, and the 7 would be forced. So this isn't a 7.
Can't have 5 on the X.
Right. So 1, 3, 4 there.
Two can be placed in box 2.
Right, because it can't go on the Renvan. It would be a 2 here, which is going to force a 2 down here. Wait. Why did I think that it forced a 2 here?
I don't know.
I don't either.
But that means that one is either... It's going to have to be either 5, 6, or 8, 9. Because you've got the 3 Renban at the bottom.
So that's going to force this to be a 7 and that a 9. Because this has to have a 6 or a 9 on it, which is going to pair with the 6 or a 9 here.
Right.
And we know this is 10. Subtracting 7 is 3. Add 10.
Row 1. You can place a 1 in it because it can't go on the Renban.
Right. So the units was 10 plus the sum of so red minus green is 10 minus 8, which is 2. The units was 10 plus that difference. And this difference is going to be the same as this. So blue minus orange must also be 2. And the sum here, plate force is a 3. 3, 7. Because the units are 10 more than that difference. And since the difference is 2, that means these are 12, which is going to be 3 and 9. 1, 4 pair there.
Row 1, the Renban in box 3 is going to have to be 3, 4, 5.
Because it can't have 6 or 9 on it, or 7. So the 8 doesn't work at all.
Well, that and where's the only place you could put 3 and 4?
Right. Or just take those two off. You can't put a 1 on here now. I know 3 has to be on here. And I think 4 now has to be on here because you can't put a 1 here. Well, this is 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can't put 4 and 5 on here. So that would end up being a 5, excuse me. Takes the 5s off. Has to be 2, 3, and 4.
Which resolves the X in that column.
Right, 1 and 9. What's left over in here? 3, 2, 8, 9, and 5 are all removed. And this has to be 2 more than whatever this is. This is max 7, so this is maximum 9. So you can't do... Well, this could be 5, which would be 1 and 6. Wait, I know there's a 2 in here.
Right.
So the sum of this is 4 more than the 3 or the 4. So if I used a 4, it would have to be 8, which is 1 and 7. If I use a 3, it would have to be 7, which is 1 and 6. So the 4 comes out, 4 is placed here, which makes a 3, 2 and 4, 7, 1, 1, 3, 4 pair. Doesn't mean anything, but 3, 4, 9, 2, and 8. 2, 8, 1, 3, 5, and 9 out of 7.
Row 2, 6 and 7 go on the right in box 3. And then
2 are left over?
5 and 8 are on row 2 in the box 1.
3
3
and
and
4?
4.
Three, 4, 6, and 1. 4 is not allowed in either of those. We need 2, 4, or 3. None of them can be 7. Oh, 2, 4 pair makes both a piece of 8 and add a 2. 7 and 8. So where's 8 in this box? It's not in the top row. Not there or there, so there's an 8. $53.
Yeah, because 44 and 9 is 53.
Yeah. I guess how do I deal with that over on this side? So the top on the right, bottom on the right add less restrictions. 5, 6, 7, and what's missing? A 2? Not a 2, not a 7. Oh, 1, 7 is going to take that 7 out, so that gives us a 5, 6 pair. 1, 7, 5, 6, 2, and 8. These two, 1, 2, 4, 3, and 7 are 6 and 8. 9 and 7. Those two aren't 2, those two aren't 5. Three, 2, 4, and 8. It's not a 7. If this was 3 and 7, we would get 4 and 6. Which would be 3 and 7 there. I don't know why that would be a problem. What am I missing? Because the whole right side is essentially done. Because we know what the sum of that is, we know what the sum of this is, and we know what the sum of that is. So if we look at them separately, although we do know what the sum of that is, although it doesn't mean anything, we know what the sum of that is. None of that's going to change any of that. Unless this wasn't supposed to work.
All right, the arrow on the top on the right side. Would you highlight that? Okay. We know that there's the 10, which brings that down to 20 or 39. And there has to be a 5 on there because that's the only place for a 5 in column 8. Which brings it down to 24.
One of these two is an 8. That's going to leave 16.
Okay. So just, okay, 16. There also has to be a 9 on there, but it could be on the X.
Right.
The 2 has to be on there in row 8.
It sure does. $15,
So that's
25.
14 in 3. Now, if the 9 is not on the X,
That would be 5.
right, which would have to be 1 and 4.
Which could be done if that was a 1 and that was the 4.
Right. All right, if the 2 is on the X, it's going to be purple. If the 2 is on the X, that means the 8 is going to be that one. Maybe we should say if that one's the 8, if the 8 is on the X, because that leaves us 6.
Then this would have to be 2.
Right.
8 plus 6 plus 2 plus, we know there has to be a 5 up there, plus 10 is equal to
but we know that there's 16 or 14 in 3.
Yeah, which means 8.
And the 6, so that would have to be 1 between the 8 and the 6. Which is 27, so those two would have to sum to 12. Yeah. And that's what that has to be if that is an 8.
Right.
Okay, so if Yeah,
So if this is an 8, that's a 2, it's a 7, that's an 8. 4, 5, 7, 6,
yeah.
1,
That's a
4
1-4
pair,
pair.
3, 6, 7, 4, 3.
That's a 4. And that would be a 6-9 pair.
If this is not an 8, it's a 2. That being a 2 makes that an 8. That being an 8 makes that a 6, making that an 8. 2 would come off 1, 4, and 5. Make that a 2. Being a 6 removes 6 from there. That being 4, that a 3, and that a 4.
All right, looking at the purple. Yeah. Go ahead and well, 2 and 8 is 10.
We're still left with 14 and 3.
That's 20. 19. 1 or 7. 1, 4, 5.
If I put a
That's
7
7.
here,
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. That's 7. then you have to get 7. One of those is 5. One of those 3 is 5. But there's no way to make 1 and 6 would be the only way to make 7.
Yeah.
For the 14. If that's 1, then you have to get 13, which 6 and 7.
Can't do 6 and 7 to break this.
Can't use 6 and 7, and you can't do 5 and 8 or 4. Well, wait a minute, 9 and 4. Nine up there, one of the 2 on the top. The other one would be the 5 and the 4 at the corner.
If
But
this was a 9 and a 4,
wouldn't work.
That would make that a 3.
Oh yeah, it would, because
and it would break the 3-9.
Yeah. So neither one of those worked, did it?
I don't think so. Just to double check. If this is a 7, we would need to do 5. Let's and 7 more. 1 6 seems to be a possibility. Except
because
that would make
if it's
both of those 7.
Right.
And so 1 6 doesn't work. I don't have a 2, so I can't do 2 5.
And you don't have a 3.
And I'm already using a 5, and I don't have 3 and 4. Because that would break the 3 4 there. So 7 doesn't work. If I did a 1, then that would be 5 and 13. So 4 9 would make that a 3, and now suddenly this 3 9 down here doesn't work. 5 and 8 doesn't work because I've got an 8 and I'm supposed to use a 5.
And 6 7 breaks the 6 7 up there in box 3.
So the 1 doesn't work. And that just eliminates that possibility. So 8 1 2 7 6 2 4 8 1 5 3 9 1 7 5 7 6 3 4 4 7 6 1 7 5 3 4. 3s are out. 6s are out. That one's not a 5. And that's 39.
Row 4. Oh yeah, did we add
What?
9, 10, 22, 30, 38, 47, 53. Okay, yeah, the other adds to 53. Row 4 has a 3 4 9 triple.
So that makes this a 2, a 6, and a 1. 6, 9, 6. Those aren't 6. Those aren't 5. That's 1, 2.
The Ren Van in box 6.
Ren Van 4, 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 6, 9, 5, 3. 300.
Wow, that was wicked hard. That was wickedly hard.
Yeah. Yeah, even if we knew the modular division, yeah, asking if the most restrictive version down here worked. Um, and then even then we had to do some fiddly mathematics. I don't know. Anyway, row 9, 695, 327, 841. Submit solution code. That's very hard. There was probably some better ways of going about the fiddling here.
Probably.
And then maybe a better way than asking if the most restrictive version here just does it. I don't know. But we'll definitely keep in mind the when you've got arrows that point in two directions, the modular 3 thing.
Right.
Because that was definitely super restrictive looking back on that. I still think the logic involved is very, very difficult. Just for that alone. But the logic after that doesn't get any easier, I don't think. But knowing the most restrictive version here is a 3 and a 9, and then just see where that leads. Although that's not particularly my favorite, so I'm gonna go with nice on that one rather than very nice, just because I don't particularly like the if this is this, then where does that lead logic? I only ever really try to fall back
Although we
on that.
certainly do that often enough.
Yeah, it's just sort of like it's just sort of like that's the fallback method. Like if there's no other clear way forward, then that ends up being the only way to go about it. It's just, is there a better way than that? I don't know. It is what it is. Yeah. Ended up being the only puzzle we did today because it's already close to 10. So I don't know if we have enough time to start another one, and
Yeah. Ouch, ow, ow, ow,
I guess
ow,
this is like 3 different puzzles. That cat's still being mean.
Cramp in my thigh.
Ah.
Nice Charlie horse just suddenly said, "Oh!"
Yeah. My left leg is asleep because I don't know how to use a chair. And it's resting against my desk. So let's try incorrectly using a chair like this. All right. I think I think it's late enough. We should probably hit the calling it here button. But yeah, that was a super tough puzzle. And I appreciate the help that Electron gave in order to go through that one. Yeah, I guess I don't really have anything else to say. Anything you want to say, Mama?
Nope. Definitely appreciated Electron's help.
Mm-hmm. Aside from that, just a reminder to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell. That way you'll know when I'm streaming again and when I do things like random streams for Horizon Zero Dawn. And then share the video. Other people like to see videos too. Yeah, especially if I solve puzzles from content creators that you know, because Electron and Toolrack both found the channel through the fact that I did some of their puzzles. But yeah, I need to share the video myself a little bit more, but I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.